I mentioned to you that the beneficiary, of course, is the recipient of the death benefit. The other thing we have to look at is that there are two designations that you can have for a beneficiary. It could be revocable or irrevocable. Let's take a look at the revocable first. If you name someone as a revocable beneficiary, then you as the insured continue to have all the rights. In other words, if you want to change beneficiaries, you don't have to notify the current beneficiary. If you want to cancel the contract, if you want to borrow against the policy, you want to sign the policy, you know, whatever it is that you want to do with the policy, because the beneficiary is revocable and therefore not part of the contract at all. Remember, they're not a party to the contract. What happens now, basically, is that you get a situation where you have all the control. That's the issue. So when you name somebody as a revocable beneficiary, all the marbles, you might say, are stacked up on your side, and you can essentially do whatever it is that you that you want to do, and nobody can really stop you or anything along that line. Okay. However, if you have an irrevocable beneficiary, it's quite the opposite. In an irrevocable beneficiary, you can only be removed. In other words, the irrevocable beneficiary can only be removed if the irrevocable beneficiary says yes. Okay, so when you name somebody as an irrevocable beneficiary, you now have extended your contractual rights over to that individual. And so because they're now irrevocable beneficiary, now if you want to change beneficiaries, you need to get their consent. If they say no, you're basically stuck. There's nothing you can do about it, okay? If you want to cancel the policy, the irrevocable beneficiary gets notified. If you want to make any kind of change to the policy, you want to borrow against the policy, you want to collateralize the policy, whatever it is that you want to do, because now by naming that other party in your contract as a revocable beneficiary, you now have made them part of your contract. And remember that up here I said that they had no contractual rights whatsoever. But you've extended those contractual rights then to your irrevocable beneficiary once you name them as irrevocable. So you have to be very, very careful when you say irrevocable, because it could really tie up your hands quite severely. You won't be able to do very much with it. So the obvious question, obviously, is why would anybody name anybody irrevocable, given what I've just said? Well, sometimes you don't have much of a choice. In other words, the law says you have to do it. So a perfect example of this is in a marital breakdown. If I have a spouse and we are not going to be divorced, whatever, and I have to provide child support, and I have to provide, let's say, spousal support, whatever it is. And let's just, for simplicity's sake, say I have to give $50,000 a year in spousal or child support to my ex-spouse, whatever. Well, that's all contingent on one basic thing. That is that I live. If I die, that $50,000 dries up. That's the end of that, okay? So what the courts may say, basically, is that in order for, as part of the settlement, you might say the divorce settlement, is that I would have to buy, let's say, $1 million worth of life insurance on myself, name my ex-spouse as irrevocable beneficiary, so that way she has the control of the policy as well. And that way, should I change my mind, not pay the premium, try to change the beneficiary, try to cancel the contract, all those kind of things there, okay, she would be notified. Okay, so she would be notified, so, okay, the insured, life insured is trying to change beneficiaries. Do we have your consent? Obviously, you're not going to give me consent, but so what I'm saying is that it could be a situation where by operation of law, you have to name that person irrevocable so that that person does have rights, contractual rights, and everything else, okay? Because if you name it just as revocable, I can just simply say, forget it, I'm going to change beneficiaries, or I'm going to cancel the contract, and you would have no rights at all. So the law itself, okay, will probably dictate that you must do that, okay? The second thing is, of course, creditor protection. If you remember, I said to you that the only people really that have creditor protection in terms of the life insurance proceeds are the preferred beneficiaries. So your children, your spouse, your grandchildren, things of that nature there, but not your siblings. Okay, or not your partner or something. They do not have that same level of protection. So if you owed money upon your death and everything, and let's say you left your money to your brother, let's say your sibling, okay, and that brother of yours is not a dependent of yours, okay, because if they're dependents, that's a different story. But let's say they were just left it to them. The creditors could, in fact, go after that money. So how do we get around that situation? Let's say we go outside the preferred class. So how do we give all the people outside that preferred class some kind of protection against creditors? And the way to do it, of course, is through naming them as vocal beneficiary as well. Okay, so that basically ties up the creditor's hands. They cannot go after that money. So why irrevocable? Like I say, an operation of law or creditor protection for those people that fall outside of the preferred classification. Okay. Another thing to remember, of course, is what we call an absence of beneficiary. So you named your spouse as beneficiary. And now both of you are on a holiday and you're traveling across the Atlantic Ocean to go to Europe. The plane goes down and you both die. And so there's $500,000 on my life, let's say. So it's myself and my wife are on our way to Paris for a holiday, whatever. And the plane goes down. She is the beneficiary of my $500,000. However, the plane goes down, we both died. And now the insurance company says, okay, we need to pay out the $500,000. Where's the beneficiary? Well, there is no beneficiary because the beneficiary perished. So therefore, now we have an absence of beneficiary. So the obvious question now is, where are we going to put this money? We have to pay it out, but who are we going to pay it to? And also, therefore, in the absence of a beneficiary, the money will be paid back to the insured's estate. In other words, that $500,000 will be paid to my estate, not my spouse's estate, because I didn't name her estate as a beneficiary. I named her. She's not there. So therefore, the insurance company can't just arbitrarily send a check to her estate. Okay, so that money will in fact be paid back to my estate. And as I mentioned earlier, when you name an estate as a beneficiary, whether you named it or whether by default that's what it is, then of course it will be subject to taxation, it will be subject to creditor attack, and so on and so forth. So to avoid all that, we always recommend that you have a contingent beneficiary. In other words, name somebody else as well. So I could be a situation where I say my wife is the primary beneficiary, but in the event that she predeceases me, whatever, okay, all my children, my 4 children, let's say, will automatically become the beneficiaries in equal proportion, whatever, okay. So naming a contingent beneficiary, okay, avoids this situation of the money being paid to my estate. So it bypasses it. So have a secondary beneficiary, or as we refer to it as a contingent beneficiary, is a very important piece of all of this, and that avoids going to the insurance estate, because, as I said, going into the estate, that will create some tax issues and creditor issues, things of that nature. The other thing to remember when you have an absence of a beneficiary is that in the event that we don't know who died first, in a life insurance policy, it is considered that the beneficiary died first. Okay, so when a person dies, the 2 of them are dead, we don't know who died first. It is presumed that the beneficiary has actually died first, you see. And so that's why, once again, if we don't name a contingent beneficiary, then it's going to go to the estate. So it is really critically important that we have a secondary beneficiary to avoid all that sort of stuff there, to avoid estate issues, to avoid creditor issues and everything else. Always name, have a named beneficiary. And as I said, in the event that they can't figure out who in fact died first, then automatically the beneficiary is deemed to have died first. So therefore, everything then gets paid back to me, the insurance estate. And for now, we will see you later. Thank you.